What is the main cause of poor health and how can it be improved? I mean diseases such as cancer and chronic diseases that significantly and constantly deprive a person of their well-being.
Foolishness. Foolishness is resolved by acquiring knowledge. If a person lacks knowledge about this world, its rules, its laws, and its orders, and the Creator's intention is that if a person does not know, they will be ill. Nothing will help. And even if you stuff him with some medications, his problems will emerge in another area. It's like a balloon. If you squeeze it here, it will bulge out there. If you squeeze it there, it will bulge out at the bottom. And it is precisely ignorance and the unwillingness to know how the world is arranged that primarily drives a person. What does a person operate with? Their pride, their importance, and they say, no, the world is as I want to see it. And reality says, no, I am what I am as the Creator intended me to be. And when a person, moving through reality, does not wish to see it, does not wish to see its essence, problems begin to arise. And these problems can become very serious. And if a person accepts this as a given, that practically any illness is simply a process of slowing down their own foolishness, it is an act of saving their viability. In other words, if there were no illness, a person would lose their viability faster than with the presence of that illness. Now let me explain. Look here. There is a concept known as asceticism. Even the scientific medical community is generally willing to agree that sometimes it is beneficial to fast, and at times it is useful to eat very sparingly, as there is, in principle, a positive effect from this. That is, I agree with this. Now let's look at what illness is. Let's say it's some ordinary tonsillitis. Here is a person rushing through life, fussing, twitching, getting angry, hating, rejoicing, laughing, freaking out, feeling down, and then, boom, they get sick. What happens at that moment? He lies down in bed, he has a fever, he doesn't need anything anymore, he doesn't want anything. You tell him, let me bring you a newspaper, I'll turn on the TV. He says, no, leave me alone. That's it. I want to be alone with myself. I want to be in silence. What is illness at this moment? It is forced asceticism for a specific person. Without this illness, he would continue rushing somewhere and would ultimately crash into a wall. And to prevent him from crashing into that wall, he needs to twist his ankle, so to speak.
Who decides that he will crash into a wall if he continues to live this way?
He decides for himself, but at a level that he is not aware of, at a level that his mind cannot reach.
So does a person essentially create their own illness?
Yes, he is holding himself back. When one part of him is overexcited, it pulls him somewhere, while another part, realizing where it is pulling him, tries to somehow stop him, to rein him in.
What should I pull him on? What examples of these foolishness can you show? In other words, what have you encountered?
Look, the example is very simple. Wherever we direct our attention, wherever our consciousness flows, we immediately begin to synchronize with that. Here, for example, there is an endless stream of some news, and everyone perfectly understands the quality of it. And if a person gets stuck on this and constantly directs their attention there, they begin to crystallize, and their viability starts to decline. He turns to stone at that moment, like a jellyfish that turns everyone to stone with its gaze. This is the same jellyfish that turns you to stone on a conscious level. If you look at her and you need to somehow pull away, you have to turn your head in the other direction, just like that. And then that inner deep part, for example, says, now your vision is poor. And he already said, I'd rather look out the window somewhere. Did it work? It worked. Did he turn his head? He did, but this is an illness. This is a problem. And here, a person has two options. He can assert his will, he can show his foolishness and say, now I will turn to doctors, they will improve my vision, and I will continue to watch the news. It is his pride. And so, driven by his pride, he turns to the doctors, who simply perform their function. They do not wish him harm. They do not wish him death. They are just fulfilling their role, and that's all. We completed the task, and he is sitting there again, staring at the television. Oh, something happened with his digestion. Oh, I'm going. Has he left again? I mean, some events, some processes have happened again that pulled him away from this. The TV burned out, the lights went out, he was called to work. In other words, the world will still try to pull him out of this through its deeper aspects. Why does this happen? I say again, at that moment he loses his viability, he becomes stone-like, his consciousness hardens. And as soon as a person's consciousness begins to awaken, all their inner unconscious self tries to resist this. Sometimes this resistance leads to diseases. If we take a severe case of cancer, for example, various cancer diseases, What? People have also approached me with such problems. A person, a woman, worked in a hospice with severely ill people, saving them with all her might, and ended up there herself. Why?
Desire for one's journey.
Wherever you direct your attention, that is what you synchronize with. This person was already deeply religious and entrenched in their own concepts at the time of our contact, and then she comes to me and I say, throw all of that in the trash. You understand that this doesn't save you? Everything you're telling me right now, all your faith, all your religion, you continue to die? I'm saying, stop. Free your consciousness. Breathe deeply. And here, when I show through myself, look, this is how it should be. See how it can be fluid. See how you can expand your perception, release it, see where you really need to move. This is when I showed this vector in the opposite direction, not towards the grave, but in the opposite direction. And suddenly it became clear that everything she was doing was driving her even deeper into that grave, because for her, there was faith and religion. This is for health. Therefore, she could not use it to connect with her soul. She used it as idolatry. That is, again, a certain object. And I focus my attention on it. And this is the same thing, just on a slightly different level. And when I managed to convince her, not so much to convince her, but to show her that attention can be drawn and redirected to the source within each person, where there is an ideal model to emulate. In a wooden object, there is no model to emulate. In pictures, there is no model to emulate. In a person who is dying before your eyes, there is no role model to follow. They are dying. They would need to find that role model somewhere, but you have it within your soul. You have it in your heart. And when you find this process, when you strive for it, sincerely strive, not to gain something from it, it won't work that way. You strive sincerely. After all, you don't demand from your liver that it gives you something. Liver, give me money. This is just foolish. No one is doing this. And here you are, binding your heart, asking me for money. Soul, give me health, give me... No, it doesn't work that way. And so a person looks on. It pulls its attention away from the external world, redirecting it to where there is an ideal model to emulate, begins to synchronize with it, so that attention reaches the soul, consciousness starts to flow there, and you begin to synchronize with it, and your diseases start to fade. Because you start to melt and spread from a crystallized state, from a state where you are a piece of ice that can be broken, you first turn into water, which can no longer be broken but can be splashed. And then you become steam. I speak in analogies, but the same transformations happen with consciousness. And when this consciousness flows freely and effortlessly through you, when you stop self-destructing, when you stop suppressing, spasming, and constricting yourself, and interacting with those who suppress, spasm, and constrict themselves, dragging you along, because we easily resonate with each other. After all, we are all made of the same essence. From vibrations, from processes, and when you synchronize with the place where there is fire, not with the place where there is death, that is when diseases begin to magically disappear from you. They are no longer needed. You no longer need to be held back. You no longer need to be restricted. You do not need to be kept in a cage. That is, your subconscious, your inner self, begins to trust you and gradually loosens its grip. And ideally, when the subconscious says, that's it, do what you want, with complete trust, your level of awareness allows you to freely and unobstructedly align with your wave.
Which practices or courses should one start with on this path?
You know, I very deeply demonstrated this process in the second year about the power of consciousness when we were preparing to shed the cocoon. There are several stages, and one of the stages is an integral part of this connection with one's soul. There, I demonstrated this state as much as my skill permitted to the best of my ability, and you can take this piece and start from it. And then to grow and fully complete the course, and in practical energy work, to increase one's awareness, to enhance the level of one's knowledge. But the most concentrated, the very essence of what I am talking about, this practice exists in the consciousness too, at the limit of speed. It is called contact with the soul. We don't impose anything there.
Have you had any personal examples when you found a connection with your soul and some illness passed for you?
You know, I have had many personal examples when I noticed chaos within myself, lost contact with my soul, and then illness would come to me. I would say, that's it, I understand. Once I regained that contact, it would disappear. Multiplicity. I have not used any medications at all since I was 12 years old. That is, I have not taken a single pill for health. During all those waves of COVID, I also fell ill for 4 days. That is, my temperature spiked for 4 days, and I didn't consume anything. I constantly relied on trust in my path, on trust in my knowledge, even when I felt very unwell. Why did this happen? I am not a saint. I also do foolish things. I also make some thoughtless actions.
Can you give a specific example from your life?
Well, in continuation, actually, of this story, when the COVID wave hit, I understood what was happening. I saw how people, like shot partridges, fell into painful states. And I feel like I need to live in a cleaner way during this period so that I don't get knocked down. Well, you need to live purely, and you didn't live purely. You succumbed to passions, you succumbed to temptations. You're just an ordinary person, a lot of sex, little practice. Energy is declining, vitality is also starting to decrease, and immunity is also going down. And bam, hello fever. I thought to myself, well, I realized that I should have taken better care of myself. I knew I needed to be more cautious, so I thought, okay, that's it. Hello illness, let's figure this out now. What did I do? I stopped all my temptations, I halted all my passions. I kind of put the outside world on pause and said, okay, I will come back to you later when I have more free time, that is, when the concentration of problems decreases. And I became still, to interact, to synchronize with one's divine heart. 4 days, after which I got out of bed and went to attend to my affairs. No pills, no doctor visits, no examinations. After that, I came into contact with a huge number of people suffering from all of this. My parents have been ill with all of this, and several times at that. I interacted with everyone. I was with everyone. Nothing was happening to me anymore. But I was also more impeccable in this process and understood that if I was about to have significant interactions with people who are susceptible, I still needed to live my life more qualitatively.
Many people have developed what is known as post-COVID syndrome, where a person experiences issues with their sense of smell or something happens to their hair, causing it to start falling out. There might be some deficiencies in vitamins and minerals in the tests. Personally, I have traces left on my retina after COVID. Things like that. Do you have anything similar?
First of all, I don't want doctors. No one has examined me. However, considering my self-awareness and self-perception, there are no problems at all. But my hair has been falling out for a long time, even long before COVID. So no, I haven't noticed any problems with myself. Everything is great for me, and my well-being is absolutely wonderful.
Do you want to unlock your inner strength and learn to manage energy? The course, Power of Consciousness 1. Practical energy will provide you with tools to improve health, develop intuition, and gain a deeper understanding of the world. Join and start changing your life right now. Link in the description.